Behind me is a road that my students will be very familiar with. It's the A10, and it was built following the original route of Ermine Street, the Roman road. Now this video is to help my students with the useful question, a very common GCSE type question that appears on papers such as Conflict and Tension 1918 to 1939. This video will look at a recent question that I gave my Year 7s. Now the A10 was built to follow the route of this Roman road. However, the difference is the A10 now tails off of Royston and goes up through Cambridgeshire and Norfolk, eventually ending in Kings Lynn. The original Ermine Street, however, continued up to Lincoln and then tailed off, eventually ending in York.
All right, but apart from the sanitation, the medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, a fresh water system and public health, what have the Romans ever done for us?
So before we look at source A, let's discuss what the Romans did do for us. Well, we've already discussed long roads. The Romans could travel all over the empire and therefore ruled all of it. Their government was therefore strong. In comparison, the Anglo-Saxons that followed them were split into 7 different kingdoms, and therefore having a strong government that could rule over everyone was difficult. Aqueducts brought fresh water from the reservoirs into the towns and cities, so people were kept clean and they were drinking clean water. Public baths enabled people to bathe and keep clean. Most of the population had access to public baths as they only cost a penny to use. Latrines. This was a sanitary system that cleaned the human waste after going to the toilet. This kept towns and cities clean and helped to get rid of disease. And law and order. Whilst it would be easier to get into trouble when arrested, many people felt safer and a sense of fairness or justice. Now many historians will compare Roman Britain to how Britain was like once the Romans had left. Most historians agree that when the Romans had gone, Britain started to crumble. Its towns and cities and centralised government were no more. This artist compares the Roman city of Canterbury in Kent to when it was thriving under the Romans, to around about 470 AD, when the Romans had left Britain and the towns and cities were left to crumble.
So that was a quick reminder on what the Romans have done for us. Now the useful question.
Now our exam question is, how useful is source A to a historian studying the impact of the Romans on Britain? Now before we answer this question, we need to notice a few things about this image to help us decide how useful it is. The Roman houses in the background would start to be built across the city, similar to this style. It is showing how Romans built roads. Now our own knowledge is that Roman roads were known to be long and straight. Most towns and cities were built in a grid, so it was easy to find your way around and also defend if invaded by an enemy. This was created by a person in charge of building the Roman roads. This is why the source is useful to a certain extent, because the person that created the source would have witnessed this happening at the time. However, does this image tell us everything about the impact the Romans had on Britain? Now if you want to attempt this exam question, then please feel free to do so. Here are some sentence starters that you may or may not decide to use. Remember the word useful. It means helpful, what the historian can learn from this source. A quick exam tip is for, in paragraph 1, for you to analyse and evaluate the picture, the actual content of the source. In the second paragraph, you should analyse and evaluate the provenance, who created it, when it was created. Does this person have a reason for creating the source like this?
Now that some of you had a go at practicing that question, let's compare it to a question that got full marks.
So let's go through this step by step on how this student would have structured their answer. Source A is useful to a certain extent in studying the impact of the Romans on Britain because we get to see the building of a Roman town or city. This is shown by the fact that Roman centurions are watching over workers laying the foundations for new buildings and roads. This is supported by looking at the Roman buildings in the background. This is different to the buildings made of wood and straw that the Britons had built before the Romans had arrived. Hence, it is apparent that the Romans built their towns and cities in a modern structure that is similar to those of modern day. Many towns are now built in a grid so that it is easy to find your way around. In addition, the Romans thought that this would be easier to defend if their town got attacked. Furthermore, source A is useful to an extent when we consider that it is a painting that was drawn at the time when the Romans were building up Britain. This source was created by a Roman who was actually in charge of building roads in Londinium. They would have known how Roman roads and buildings were built, how long it would have taken, and how many people it would have needed to build it. Therefore, the source is useful because we know that the Romans built towns in a way that is more similar to modern day towns. We are also being told this by someone who had experience of building during Roman times.
I hope this video has helped you to tackle the useful question. I hope to make another one soon. In the meantime, take care and stay safe.